So you want to hunt goats, eh? There's always been a back and forth between the serious goat and sheep hunters out there. Both claim that one is tougher than the other for a variety of reasons. Having done both, I would say both sides have a good argument. But this story is about mountain goats and the challenge of going after one of these white ghosts of the mountains. Hi there folks, Spencer Remple, the Moose Whisperer here, bringing you exciting hunting and outdoor adventure stories from around the world. Today's story is submitted by Ash Rempel. He submitted a story before, and here's a link to hear that awesome elk hunt and grizzly bear experience. But today, we're talking mountain goats, so let's get straight into his story. Goat hunting brings all those wonderful elements of hunting together. You have big, rugged mountains, waterfalls, and glaciers. Solitude, lots of solitude. Not many people want to take on the challenge or are stupid enough to go into some of these places that mountain goats inhabit. It usually includes some sort of death-defying creek crossing, scrambling across steep cliffs, white-knuckle avalanche chutes, and there's often burns where everything is sharp and dry and you end up with a face covered in soot, making you look like you were going to war. If you're lucky enough to find an easy route up the mountain, it almost always consists of 90% thorn bushes of some kind. Inevitably, the branch you grab as you scramble to catch yourself from plummeting down the mountain has the biggest thorns. Yes, mountain goats live in the hardest to reach country, and well, that's how they make their living. We were a few days into the hunt, and we had been touring around the area in which we had a mountain goat limited entry hunting draw. In Canada, we have an excellent wildlife management system where game populations are closely monitored. In some areas, and for some species where populations are lower, there is no open season. A predetermined number of tags will be allowed to which hunters then apply for and obtain or win in basically a lottery, pick your name out of the hat system. All right, back to our story. It was mid-October, I believe. The weather was crisp, but had no real snow up high yet. A perfect time to look for that elusive haired-up billy. I can't speak for all, but most goat hunters hold these animals with a high level of respect. To keep the populations healthy, hunters need to be very attentive to the number of animals in an area and the age ranges. If there are no kids, which is the young, the babies of the goats, then there are no problems. Hunters also not necessarily required to take, but heavily encouraged to only harvest billies, the male of the species. If you're unsure if a goat is a billy or a nanny, well, then our suggestion is only shoot with a camera. Responsible hunting ethics are a must. We spotted a band of goats, 5 in total, 2 nannies and 2 kids with a yearling tagging along. Then high up, I mean high up, there was a really big billy. He was standing on a ledge with the sun shining perfectly on his white coat. What a sight. I can still see it in my mind's eye today. Man, that was a trophy. One beautiful animal, but you know what? He was going to die of old age up there because there was no way anyone was going to get up there. So we decided to keep glassing our way up the valley. And sure enough, we spotted a nice goat in somewhere that was going to be, well, potentially accessible. We put the spotter on him and confirmed this was definitely a billy, which can be hard to do, but with a good spotting scope, we could get a close look, and for sure this one's a billy. Okay, he was at the foot of a straight up and down section about 1/3 up the mountain, which was still a stinking long way up. We made a plan to have one of us stay below as a spotter and 2 of us head up after him. We swung on our packs and headed down. Yes, down. That's right, because we had to reach the valley bottom before we could start heading up. And yes, that included one of those creek crossings that I hinted at before. We got to the creek, a fast-flowing glacial creek, and these areas are steep, so it's really rushing and straight off of ice. It is cold. Off came the boots and the socks, and man, it looked pretty deep, so the pants too. Now, there's not many things colder than a glacier-fed creek. We were just hoping the level didn't reach too high, you know what I'm saying. We made it across. We got all our gear back on and started hiking up the mountain. We had made it our plan to climb up the valley and away from the goat, as the wind usually comes straight up the valley as the day warms. You have to pay close attention to the wind. You can do everything right in a hunt, but you lose track of the wind direction, and you're just on a hike, not a hunt. It's amazing how sensitive animals are to scent. Now, the going was tough, steep, brush, thorns. Yep, this was a goat hunt. About an hour or so of climbing brought us to the edge of a slope that ended in a sheer cliff. We were taking our time, glassing, moving slowly, constantly scanning. No goat. Our spotter had lost sight earlier as the goat had moved into some timber that was clinging to the side of the mountain. Well, now what? We waited for a while and decided to cross the rock slide and try to get up higher. Who knows, maybe we could spot him from there. Now, I found that when hunting in a pair, it's best to have one person watch while the other is moving. So we did this as we slowly worked our way across the slide and up the side of the slope. We were about 100 yards below the top of the slide with the cliffs towering above us, when all of a sudden out walked that goat, just starting across the slide. I couldn't believe my eyes. I whistled a note quickly to my hunting partner and pointed out to where the goat had stepped out. I could see from my vantage point that this was definitely the same billy we had glassed. It looked exactly the same. Okay, this is him. Thumbs up, I gave to my hunting partner. He hunkered down, and not 3 seconds later, a shot rang out. Now, when hunting goat, if you do get a shot, it's a must to think about where the goat will end up. I mean, this is steep. We're on cliffs. You shoot that goat, he could end up falling down a slide and into a chute and fall into some place where you can't even recover him. This was a good spot. Right below the goat was a slight bench where the goat went down and stopped. Success. The perfect spot. But then, you wouldn't believe it, that goat gave one last kick as his life expired and ever so slowly started to slide down that slope. At first slowly, and then with a little more speed, and then crap! Here it comes! I stepped to the side and the goat soared right past me, just feet from me, silhouetted by the sky on all sides. Luckily, there was a band of brush just below us and the goat quickly got hung up in the brush below. Whew! So we didn't have to chase him to the bottom. The antlers and the meat and nothing got damaged. My hunting buddy hollered out, "Was that our billy?" Well, I hollered back, "It sure was a billy that went sailing right past me." We made our way to the goat, and he was in a nice spot where we could totally do all of our skinning and harvesting right there. We were excited to bring the meat, the hide, and the horns home. You know what? I've eaten goat before, and it's really quite a delicacy. You'd be surprised. We admired that animal there and showed respect for the animal giving his life. We field dressed and carried him down as we were going to use every bit of meat. Man, we were thrilled. Whew, what a hunt. Our spotter had seen the whole thing through the spotting scope and said if it was recorded, it would have made a great hunting highlight reel. What a day in the mountains. Well, a big thank you to Ash Rempel for sharing that awesome hunting story. I've had the opportunity to hunt goat as well, and I've had my own stories of clinging to the side of a mountain, rifle on my back and prayers on my breath. But that's another story. Ash Rempel was born in a tiny remote community called Hauser in the West Kootenays of British Columbia, Canada. A beautiful area where Ash was able to learn to hunt everything from coyotes to deer to elk to grizzly bears and mountain goats. He learned under the tutorial of his father and his uncle, as well as others, who were great, accomplished local hunters. Ash has been known to say nothing beats the challenge and beauty of mountain goat hunting. The price you pay is high, but the reward is immense. Hunting mountain goat will surely bring you into the most beautiful of God's country and give you an appreciation and love for all his creation. Well, that's Ash's story, and I'd like to hear yours. Send in your hunting or outdoor adventure stories to info@themoosewhisperer.com and let me share them with the world. Thanks for watching, folks, and hey, more stories to come.